in the glittering heart of Dubai, where wealth defines worth and the skyline glows like a monument to ambition. A love story once unfolded between two souls from worlds apart. Amira Santos, 27, left her small hometown of Davao City, Philippines, with a single dream: to give her family the life she never had. Her mother, Rosalinda, was a widow battling illness, and her younger brother, Marco, still in college. Amira's job as a receptionist at a five-star hotel in Dubai wasn't glamorous, but it was her ticket out of poverty. The first months were lonely. She worked long hours, surrounded by luxury she could never touch. Guests often ignored her, some treated her like part of the furniture, but Amira carried herself with quiet grace. Her smile was genuine, her manners unshakable. To her, kindness was a form of strength. She believed good things found those who kept faith, and one day, something extraordinary did. That something or someone was Zayed Al-Rashid, the 31-year-old heir to one of Dubai's wealthiest families. Educated in London, admired for his good looks and charisma, Zayed lived a life most could only imagine. Fast cars, private clubs, and weekend getaways on family yachts. His father, Hassan Al-Rashid, a self-made construction magnate, demanded excellence and obedience. His mother, Layla, came from nobility and guarded the family's name like a crown jewel. In their world, reputation wasn't everything. It was the only thing. Amira met Zayed during one of his hotel visits. He was different from the men she served daily. He spoke gently, asked about her family, and thanked her personally for her work, gestures that felt human in a city built on hierarchy. She was cautious but flattered. Zayed began frequenting the hotel more often. He'd linger by the reception desk longer than necessary, sharing small talk that turned into conversation, conversation into connection. He learned she loved reading and missed the rain in the Philippines. She learned he felt trapped by expectation, that money could buy everything except peace. Their bond deepened quietly, hidden from the world that would never understand it. Zayed sent her flowers, at first small gestures, then extravagant bouquets. When Amira hesitated, fearing gossip, he told her, "Let them talk. I only answer to my heart." Those words pierced the walls she had built to protect herself. Against warnings from her colleagues, she began seeing him outside work. Their relationship moved fast, too fast for reason to intervene. For Amira, it felt like destiny, the promise of love that would lift her from struggle. For Zayed, it was rebellion, an escape from the life his parents designed for him. They existed in their own world, a fragile illusion held together by secrecy. When Zayed proposed marriage, it wasn't in a ballroom or under chandeliers. It was quiet, impulsive, whispered in the backseat of his car overlooking the marina. "I don't care what they say," he told her. "You're my future." Amira said yes. Their wedding was private, no family, no friends, just two witnesses and paperwork signed in a small civil office. Amira wore a simple white dress she bought herself. Zayed kissed her forehead and promised her a forever untouched by class or culture. She believed him. After the ceremony, they took a drive along the coast. The city lights shimmered across the sea, and Amira felt like the luckiest woman alive. She imagined her mother's tears of joy when she told her the news, the pride in her brother's voice when he called her big sister who made it. That night in their new apartment overlooking the Dubai skyline, Amira unpacked her modest suitcase beside Zayed's designer wardrobe. It felt surreal, a girl from Davao now living as the wife of a billionaire's son. She sent her mother a message before bed. "Mama, I'm married. He loves me. I think my life is finally beginning." But beneath the glow of the city and the comfort of wealth, shadows were already forming. Zayed's family had not given their blessing, and whispers in his circle began spreading. Behind the smiles and photographs lay an unspoken truth. The Al-Rashids did not forgive defiance easily. For Amira, love had opened the door to a dazzling new world. What she didn't know was that it would soon close behind her and never open again. For a brief moment, Amira believed she had stepped into the life she had always dreamed of. Her new home, a lavish apartment on the 43rd floor of the Al-Rashid family complex overlooking the Dubai marina, gleamed with everything she had once seen only in magazines. The air smelled faintly of jasmine diffusers and polished marble. At night, the skyline glittered through the glass walls like a sea of diamonds. But in that vast, breathtaking space, Amira was often alone. In the first weeks, Zayed was still the man she fell in love with. He cooked for her, took her to restaurants where waiters bowed to his name, and told her not to worry about what people said. "You're my wife now," he would whisper. "Nothing else matters." Yet in the back of her mind, Amira felt the invisible distance between their worlds. The apartment staff, the driver, the cleaner, even the doorman, all looked at her with a quiet curiosity. To them, she wasn't one of the family. She was the outsider who had crossed into forbidden territory. Zayed's parents, Hassan and Layla Al-Rashid, refused to acknowledge the marriage. Layla called it an embarrassment, Hassan called it a betrayal. To them, Amira was not just foreign, she was a stain on the Al-Rashid legacy. When Zayed introduced her over the phone, his mother reportedly said only 2 words: "This will end." Zayed told Amira it didn't bother him, but the strain was visible. His father cut him out of several business ventures, freezing his accounts and removing his name from upcoming contracts. For the first time in his privileged life, Zayed tasted rejection, and he blamed the woman who stood beside him. At first, the tension was subtle. His laughter faded, his patience shortened. He began to drink more, to disappear for hours without explanation. When Amira asked where he'd been, he would snap, "Stop acting like my mother." The man who once sent her roses now came home reeking of whiskey and perfume that wasn't hers. He'd toss his jacket on the couch, scroll through his phone, and act as if she weren't there. Still, Amira tried to hold their marriage together. She cooked his favorite meals, left notes on his nightstand, sent him good morning texts he never answered. She believed love was work, and she was willing to do the work. But love, as she would learn, was not always enough. Zayed's resentment grew sharper with each day. He mocked her accent in English. He told her she dressed too simple. He reminded her again and again that she came from nothing. The compliments that once made her blush had turned to insults disguised as jokes. "Maybe you should go back to your little hotel job," he sneered one evening. "You looked happier there." When she cried, he laughed. "You're too sensitive. You don't understand how my world works." Amira began to shrink within herself. She stopped answering calls from her old friends at the hotel. She deleted her social media accounts because Zayed said he didn't like her showing herself to strangers. Her days became an endless routine of silence, cleaning, cooking, waiting for footsteps at the door. She found comfort only in her nightly video calls with her mother back home. Rosalinda noticed the change immediately. Her daughter, once radiant and full of energy, now looked pale and tired. "Are you happy, Anak?" she asked softly. Amira hesitated, then forced a smile. "Yes, Mama, he's just busy with work. Everything's fine." But everything was not fine. Amira had stopped eating properly. Some days she barely spoke. The loneliness of luxury had replaced the laughter of love. Even the walls of the apartment felt like they were watching her, whispering reminders that she didn't belong. Zayed's friends, heirs, and businessmen treated her with thinly veiled contempt. At gatherings, they would talk in Arabic, exchanging smirks and whispers while Amira sat quietly beside her husband. She could feel the judgment, the ridicule. Zayed, instead of defending her, joined in their laughter. At home, he grew more controlling. He checked her phone, questioned every call, and forbade her from visiting the few Filipino friends she had made. "I don't want people gossiping about my wife," he said coldly. When Amira protested, he would remind her of everything he had given her: the apartment, the car, the clothes. "You'd still be working in a hotel if it weren't for me," he would say. And she would fall silent, swallowing her pride. She began writing in a small diary she kept hidden behind her wardrobe, the only place she could speak freely. One entry read, "He's changing. I don't recognize him anymore. But maybe he's just lost right now. Maybe I can bring him back. I have to try." She refused to believe their love was dying. She prayed every night, asking God to help Zayed find peace, to help her understand him. But Zayed didn't want understanding, he wanted control. The more she tried to reach him, the more distant he became. When she suggested visiting his parents, he exploded. "Don't ever mention them again," he shouted. "You've already caused enough damage." The argument ended with shattered glass on the floor, and Amira curled in silence. She didn't tell anyone. She still thought he would calm down, apologize, become the man she fell for. But that man no longer existed. The love that had once felt like liberation now felt like captivity. The apartment, with its panoramic views and golden chandeliers, had become a cage, beautiful, silent, and cold. Amira looked out over the city one night, lights flickering below, and wondered how something so bright could feel so empty. She wrote again. "Maybe he'll see me again. Maybe one day he'll remember what love looked like before it turned into pride." But Zayed's world was built on image, not emotion. He had spent his life performing perfection, and now his mask was slipping. Every smile was a lie, every touch a transaction. For Amira, every day was a reminder that she didn't belong to this city, this family, or even this man anymore. Love had brought her to Dubai, but what she didn't realize was that it would also destroy her there. 3 months into the marriage, Amira began to feel a strange mix of exhaustion and joy. Her mornings were filled with nausea, her appetite unpredictable, and her emotions tender. At first, she thought it was the stress, the loneliness of a love gone quiet. But when she finally visited a clinic near Jumeirah, the doctor's words changed everything. "Congratulations," he said with a smile. "You're pregnant." Amira sat in stunned silence, the words echoing like music, a life growing inside her. For the first time in months, she felt warmth flood her chest. She imagined Zayed holding their baby, imagined his smile softening, imagined his family finally seeing her not as a mistake, but as part of them. She believed this baby could heal what had broken between them. That evening, she cooked Zayed's favorite meal, lamb matchboos and mango dessert. She lit candles, put on soft Arabic music, and wore the blue dress he once said made her look like a piece of the sky. When he arrived home, she greeted him with a shy smile. "Zayed," she said gently, "I have something to tell you." He looked at her tiredly, still holding his phone. "What is it now?" She took a deep breath and whispered, "I'm pregnant." For a moment there was silence. His eyes froze, his hands stopped moving. "You're sure?" he asked. Amira nodded, smiling nervously. "Yes, the doctor confirmed it. We're going to be parents." But the smile that she expected never came. Instead, Zayed's jaw tightened. His expression hardened, his face pale with shock. "You did this without telling me?" he snapped. "What do you mean?" she asked, confused. "It's our child." "You think this will fix everything?" His voice rose. "You think a baby will make my family accept you? You don't understand what you've done." His words hit like cold water. Amira stared at him, speechless. She tried to reach for his hand, but he pulled away. "This child will destroy everything," he said finally before walking out. That night, Amira waited for hours, staring at the empty chair across the dining table, her food untouched. When she called him, he didn't answer. The next morning, she woke up alone. Zayed hadn't come home. Her messages went unanswered for days. When he finally returned, his eyes were bloodshot, his tone detached. "I need space," he said. "Don't call me, don't text me." Amira's joy began to crumble into fear. She tried to reassure herself. Maybe he was overwhelmed, maybe he just needed time. But deep down, she sensed a shift that could not be undone. To his friends, Zayed described the pregnancy as a burden. Messages later recovered by investigators revealed his rage and panic. "This is a nightmare," he texted one friend. "I can't let this go public. A half Filipina child, my father will disown me. She's ruined my life." Meanwhile, Amira's messages to her closest friend, Nina, painted a very different picture. "He's angry. I thought he'd be happy. I don't know what I did wrong. He won't even look at me." Her diary entries grew more anxious, her handwriting trembling. "He used to call me his world. Now he acts like I'm his enemy. I can feel the hate when he looks at me, but I can't give up. Maybe when he hears the baby's heartbeat, he'll change. But Zayed didn't change, he grew colder. He began sleeping in the guest room. At meals, he barely spoke. When Amira tried to talk, he accused her of manipulation. "You planned this," he shouted one night. "You wanted to trap me." "Zayed, it's our child," she cried. "No, it's your problem." The words cut through her. He left the apartment again, slamming the door behind him. Amira spent that night curled up on the floor, her hands over her stomach. She whispered apologies to the child inside her, not for bringing it into the world, but for the world it was being brought into. Days turned to weeks. Amira stopped going outside. The doorman noticed her pale face, the way she moved slower, spoke less. She stopped attending church, stopped messaging friends. The once vibrant woman who had walked into Dubai full of dreams now moved like a ghost in her own home. Her mother called often, worried by her silence. "Anak, are you feeling sick?" Rosalinda asked. Amira smiled weakly through the screen. "Just tired, Mama, but don't worry, I'm fine." She didn't mention the bruises, the result of arguments that had turned physical. She didn't tell her mother that Zayed's words had become weapons sharper than any knife. Zayed's behavior grew increasingly erratic. His friends noticed his temper, his drinking, his bitterness. One night, a friend reportedly asked, "Why don't you just divorce her?" Zayed's response was chilling. "Because she made me her prisoner, and I'm not letting her win." Behind closed doors, he controlled every detail of her life, her phone, her spending, her movements. He even hired a maid to watch over her when he was gone. The pregnancy, instead of being a bond, became a battle for survival. Amira tried to write letters to her unborn child, believing that one day they would understand. "I don't know what kind of world you'll come into," she wrote, "but I will love you with everything I have, even if no one else does." Her only moments of peace were when she sat by the window, hands over her belly, feeling the faint flutter of life. She imagined a tiny heartbeat beating with her own, fragile but defiant. But the reality outside that heartbeat was growing darker. By her second month, Zayed had become unpredictable, affectionate one moment, violent the next. He accused her of spying, of trying to ruin him. He started locking himself in his study for hours, phone calls hushed and urgent. Amira knew something terrible was coming, but she clung to hope. She believed love could still save them. One night, she confided in Nina again through text. "He scares me sometimes, but I know there's still good in him. I just have to remind him who we were." Nina begged her to leave, but Amira couldn't. She had nowhere to go, no money, no passport. Zayed had taken it, saying he would keep it safe. Every day, she prayed the same prayer. "Please, God, don't let him hate our child." But the city outside her window glittered indifferently, its towers reaching upward, oblivious to the storm brewing behind one glass wall in Dubai Marina. Amira still believed the child inside her could save them. What she didn't know was that it would soon become the reason her life would end. The night was heavy with heat, one of those August evenings when the air in Dubai feels thick and unmoving. The Marina Tower glowed against the darkness, its glass balconies catching the reflection of the city's endless lights. Inside apartment 2304, everything looked perfect from the outside. The polished floors, the panoramic view, the illusion of wealth and serenity. But perfection had long since left that home. At 10:00 p.m., residents on the 23rd floor began hearing raised voices. It started as muffled arguing, the kind that neighbors try to ignore. But soon it turned to shouting, a woman's voice trembling between anger and fear, and a man's tone cutting, sharp, commanding. "Please stop," she cried. Then silence. Security guards at the front desk later said they received a noise complaint around 10:45 p.m., but by the time they prepared to investigate, it was too late. At 11:37 p.m., a call reached the building's control room. A resident had fallen from the balcony. When security and paramedics arrived, the scene was grim. Amira Santos, 27 years old, lay motionless near the pool deck, her body twisted, her eyes open but lifeless. She was barefoot, wearing only a nightgown. The sound of the sirens echoed up the glass towers, slicing through the city's silence. Moments later, Zayed Al-Rashid appeared in the lobby, disoriented, pale, his white kandjara stained. He kept repeating the same words. It was an accident. She fell. She was upset. She slipped. His voice shook, but his eyes were strangely dry. When police arrived at the apartment, the story he told began to unravel. The living room was in disarray, a broken vase near the couch, a lamp knocked over, cushions scattered, and a small trail of blood leading toward the balcony. Investigators found signs of struggle. A shattered phone, overturned furniture, and a chair pushed violently against the glass door. On the balcony railing, there were faint fingerprints, hers and his. Forensic experts examined Amira's body. The bruises on her wrists and upper arms were deep, the kind that come from being grabbed hard. The pattern on her right wrist matched the shape of human fingers. Her injuries were inconsistent with a simple fall. The railing was 1.2 meters high. She would have had to climb or be pushed. When questioned, Zayed offered conflicting accounts. At first, he said Amira had been crying and leaned too far over the railing before losing her balance. Later, he said she panicked and jumped. Then, another version, that she slipped while trying to grab her phone. His voice grew defensive each time the inconsistencies were pointed out. "Why would I hurt her?" he said. "She was my wife." But the evidence spoke differently. Investigators retrieved footage from the building's corridor cameras. At 10:14 p.m., Zayed was seen entering the apartment. No one else entered or left. The next recording showed him exiting at 1:02 a.m., 3 hours later, an hour after Amira's body had already been found. Inside the apartment, detectives noticed the indoor surveillance system, a private camera installed near the living room. When they checked the device, its recordings for the night were deleted. But digital forensics specialists were able to recover fragments of data from the system's cloud backup. What they found was chilling. In the restored clip, lasting less than a minute, Amira's voice could be heard crying, pleading, "Please, Zayed, don't." A male voice shouted back, "You'll destroy everything." Then the sound of something breaking, glass, a thud, and silence. The camera cut out right after. Police confronted Zayed with the evidence, but he denied it all. "It's not what it sounds like," he insisted. "She was emotional. She wasn't thinking clearly. I tried to stop her." Yet there was no sign of distress in the recovered footage, only violence and fear. When the forensic report confirmed that Amira had been 2 months pregnant, the case took a darker turn. The bruises, the deleted footage, the timeline, it all painted a picture not of an accident, but of rage. A confrontation that spiraled beyond control. Neighbors later told reporters they had seen the couple arguing many times before. "He was possessive," one said quietly. "We heard her crying more than once." In the following days, Dubai police sealed the apartment for investigation. Photos from the scene, the balcony, the blood, the broken objects, began circulating online. The media called it the Marina Tower tragedy. To the world, it was another shocking crime in a city known for its beauty and restraint. But to those who knew Amira, it was the end of a dream. A girl who had left home to find a better life had instead found death in the arms of the man she loved. And as dawn broke over the glittering city the next morning, the apartment lights on the 23rd floor remained off, a silent witness to the night when love, power, and pride turned deadly. The morning after Amira's death, the Dubai skyline rose in silence, cold, bright, and indifferent. But inside the city's police headquarters, the story of what had happened on the 23rd floor of Marina Tower began to unfold piece by piece. The crime scene was sealed off, the apartment photographed and catalogued in detail. The shattered glass, overturned furniture, blood stains, each one told fragments of the same truth. This was no accident. The report from forensic pathologists confirmed it. The bruises on Amira's arms, the defensive marks on her hands, the depth of the fall all pointed towards struggle and intent. When investigators questioned Zayed Al-Rashid, he appeared calm but evasive. He insisted Amira had lost her balance, claiming he tried to grab her but couldn't. He repeated it like a script. "It was an accident. She was emotional. I tried to help." But every version of his story contradicted the evidence. Phone records showed calls between Zayed and his lawyer within minutes of the incident, long before he called the police. The deleted security footage, the physical signs of violence, and the recovered fragments of Amira's final pleas made his defense unravel before it even began. Dubai police moved swiftly, arresting Zayed and charging him with second-degree murder. News of his arrest spread rapidly, despite his family's attempts to contain it. The Al-Rashids were one of the city's most powerful names, owners of construction empires and luxury developments. Their influence ran deep through the legal and political system, and their lawyers worked immediately to silence the headlines. But it was too late. By sunrise, the story was everywhere. Social media exploded with outrage. Filipino communities across Dubai and Abu Dhabi flooded timelines with one hashtag, Justice for Amira. Photos of Amira's smiling face circulated alongside her wedding picture, the words she trusted love. Love betrayed her. Back in the Philippines, in the small neighborhood of Davao City where Amira grew up, her mother, Rosalinda Santos, received the news in the most brutal way, through a phone call from a friend who saw it online. Her scream carried through the narrow streets, drawing neighbors to her door. Within hours, TV reporters arrived. The grieving mother, her eyes hollow and swollen, told cameras, she just wanted to help her family. She didn't deserve this. When Amira's body arrived home, the community gathered for her wake. Her coffin, draped in white flowers, became a symbol not just of her death, but of every overseas worker who had gone abroad to build a future and never returned. Thousands marched with candles in hand. Their chants echoed through the night, "Justice for Amira, justice for all." In Dubai, investigators finalized their report. The evidence was overwhelming. Forensic patterns matched blunt force confrontation before the fall. Data from Amira's phone revealed threatening messages from Zayed, and medical examiners confirmed she was 2 months pregnant at the time of her death. For detectives, the pregnancy was the key, the revelation that ignited the rage which ended her life. The Philippine embassy in Dubai demanded full transparency in the proceedings. Government officials from both nations met quietly to manage the growing diplomatic tension. Behind the scenes, women's rights groups staged protests outside the consulate, carrying signs that read, "No woman should die for love." But inside the polished courtrooms of Dubai, the Al-Rashid family's reach was evident. Rumors spread of meetings, influence, and pressure to downgrade the charges. The media was cautioned to report respectfully. Still, independent journalists persisted, calling the case the Marina Tower murder. For Rosalinda and her family, justice felt distant, like a mirage on the horizon. She clutched her daughter's last photo every night and told reporters, "They can silence the media, but not a mother's voice." As the investigation closed and the trial loomed, the world watched closely. 2 nations, bound by tragedy, were about to see whether truth could survive the weight of power. And beneath the neon sky of Dubai, the city where Amira once dreamed of a better life, her story was no longer just a crime. It had become a movement. The trial of Zayed Al-Rashid began 6 months after Amira's death, but the echoes of that night had never faded. In Dubai, whispers filled every cafe, every newsroom, every embassy corridor. It was not just a court case. It was a battle between truth and power, between a poor woman's life and a rich man's influence. From the first day, the courtroom looked less like a hall of justice and more like a stage. Rows of reporters sat behind velvet ropes, their cameras flashing as Zayed walked in wearing a pristine white kandjara, calm and expressionless. He didn't look like a man accused of killing his wife. He looked like someone attending a business meeting. His defense team was among the most expensive in the Middle East, a team of lawyers known for protecting the elite. They bowed slightly before the judge and began their argument. Zayed had not meant to harm Amira. It was, they said, a moment of emotional instability. They called it a tragic accident between husband and wife. A domestic dispute gone wrong. Then came the character assassination. They painted Amira as emotional, manipulative, even deceitful. They suggested she had used her pregnancy to secure her future, that she had provoked Zayed during a heated argument. Every word twisted her story further from the truth. But the prosecution was prepared. Backed by the Philippine embassy, they presented their case with precision. Photos of bruises, medical reports, and the recovered audio recording were laid before the court. The prosecutor, a Filipino lawyer named Attorney Ramirez, stood firm against intimidation. This was not an accident, he declared. This was control, this was fear, this was murder disguised as emotion. He replayed Amira's final moments, her trembling voice pleading, "Please, Zayed, don't." The courtroom fell silent except for the faint hum of the recording. Some reporters wiped their eyes, others scribbled faster. Witnesses followed. Amira's friends testified about her isolation, her bruises, her messages of fear. Her mother, Rosalinda, appeared via video link from the Philippines, holding her daughter's photograph. Her voice shook as she said, "She wanted a family, she believed in love, and he destroyed her for it." But against all the tears, there was influence, the quiet, invisible weight that bends truth in favor of power. Behind the scenes, meetings took place, calls were made, pressure applied. The defense claimed Zayed had shown remorse, that he had suffered enough, that he was a man haunted by tragedy. They asked for leniency. After 6 long months of hearings, delays, and headlines, the verdict finally came. The world held its breath. The judge's voice was steady, almost detached, as he read the decision. The defendant, Zayed Al-Rashid, is found guilty of manslaughter, not murder. The sentence, 10 years in prison. A stunned silence filled the courtroom. Then came the outcry, reporters rushing to the exits, protesters gathering outside. 10 years for a life, one woman shouted. Where is justice? Across the Philippines, the news spread like wildfire. Television anchors called it a betrayal of truth. Thousands marched carrying candles and banners that read justice for Amira. Human rights groups condemned the verdict as a mockery of justice. The Al-Rashid family issued a brief statement expressing deep regret over the unfortunate event and asked for privacy. Privately, they celebrated. Their son's sentence was lenient, the family name intact, the empire untouched. For Rosalinda Santos, there was no victory, only silence. She told a reporter, her voice barely audible. "They can call it whatever they want. My daughter is still dead." The cameras panned across her tear-streaked face, capturing the weight of a mother's grief that no courtroom could erase. And so, when the gavel fell and the trial ended, justice did not feel served. It felt bought, polished, packaged, and buried beneath the marble floors of power. When the trial ended, the cameras moved on, but for Rosalinda Santos, life had stopped the day her daughter's body came home. The ashes of Amira rested in a simple white urn on the family's wooden altar in Davao City, surrounded by candles and fresh sampaguita flowers. Each evening, Rosalinda lit a candle and whispered the same words, "You didn't deserve this, Anak." The case had ignited something far bigger than one tragedy. Across the Philippines, talk shows, churches, and universities discussed Amira's death. Her name became a symbol for the thousands of migrant women who left home chasing hope, only to find danger abroad. Activists spoke of power, silence, and how justice bends for the rich but breaks for the poor. In Dubai, whispers spread that Zayed Al-Rashid's time in prison would be short. 3 years later, the rumors were confirmed, early release for good behavior. A photo soon appeared online. Zayed on a yacht in Monaco, smiling. When Rosalinda saw it, she said quietly to a reporter, "Money can buy freedom, but it can never buy peace." Her words cut through the noise. The Justice for Amira movement reignited overnight. Petitions, documentaries, vigils, and marches held across cities from Manila to Dubai. Amira's story no longer belonged only to her family. It belonged to every woman silenced by love, power, or fear. And though her life had ended far from home, her name lived on, a reminder that justice is not a privilege, but a right the world still owes her.